speaking, I'm going to start.
Start and stream. Pat, you are live.
Welcome everybody. We do apologise that we didn't get the broadcast out yesterday. We do have some audio issues, but today it is working great. So it's awesome to have you all here with me down here today for another live dive. I'm Pat and I'm diving today off Sungreen Point in Grand Cayman. We have Emil on camera and Lauren up at the surface. My current depth is 15 metres, so about 50 feet down. And the water today is 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Lauren, you say g'day to everyone.
Hi there, thanks for that, Pat. A very good morning to everybody watching. And as Pat mentioned, we're really apologetic that we did not get any broadcasts yesterday, but we do believe we've worked on some of those nasty audio issues, so we are back underwater with you. So Pat is diving at the left side, so we're a different dive site for today. So Pat, what do you hope to see?
Well, we are over the left-hand side, as Lauren said, and we are a little bit restricted by cable today, so we're going to be looking around these bommies, hopefully in search of a spiny lobster or a moray eel.
Sounds exciting. You know I love my morays. So everybody watching, please send in any questions you may have relevant to what's going on, and please make sure you use that hashtag diveLIVE. We look forward to answering your questions. So Pat, how's the visibility today?
The visibility is actually really great today. So there are some particles I can see. I'm not sure what they are. They're little spiky looking things, and they're all around today, but it's not really affecting visibility. And if anything, it's a good thing, because as you can see, we've got a lot of fish up here schooling just above the reef. So yeah, it's pretty good. I would say about 20-25 metres, so about 60 or 70 feet of visibility.
Great. So we do see some plankton drifting past Pat. It does look like marine snow, if you like, but it is just the plankton that we always refer to, which is just microscopic shrimps, jellies, crab, eggs, sperm floating about the water column. So it sometimes makes it a little bit cloudy for us, but it's great foods for a lot of marine life. So it brings in a huge array of marine life to us, which is something we will not complain about. So I'm hoping to see a turtle, Pat, FYI.
So, we've got a big snapper here. Let's go over and have a look at this.
Marcy is also looking out for a turtle today, Pat, so keep those eyes peeled.
Oh, most definitely. It's been ages since I've had a turtle live, or even on any dive in general, so I definitely would love to see one. There has been talk of a green turtle hanging around here lately, so hopefully, fingers crossed, they come and pay us a visit. Now up here we have a big school of black durgan. So black durgan are a species of triggerfish, called so because they have a spline on their head that they can erect just like a trigger.
Yeah, there's a lot of black durgans up ahead. How many would you say are there?
I would say about probably 30 or 40 in the area that I'm in just now. Now usually we see these guys in small groups or pairs of one or two, but they're mixed in here with a big school of Creole wrasse, which are the little purple fish. So I can only assume that they're all up there feeding on the plankton in the water that's all stirred up. Now I did mention before I can physically see this today, the plankton particles, And I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they're really spiky looking things. And I'm assuming it's what all of these fish are feeding on right now.
Yeah, you look like one of those black durgans yourself, Pat. There's a lot of fish around today.
Yeah, hey.
So as Pat mentioned, they probably are feeding on the plankton. And this looks like a small school of blue tangs. They've just gone out of focus there, but they're coming back in.
Yes, so blue tang calls. Oh, did you see that damselfish chasing it away?
Yeah, we did, and we can see a cerro in the macro family. Yep, that's right, Emil. There's a cerro just swimming by past the blue tangs. And this is quite a predatory fish, so it doesn't hang around for long. It's very fast and it's always looking for its next hunt. And now we're back to the schooling blue tangs, and there's a random goldfish in amongst them. Oh, you can see it using its barbels. Oh, so this yellowfish has two little barbels hanging down from its chin that you can actually see right now, and this is where the name goldfish comes from. They're really interesting fish because they use these barbels to mess up the sand, and it stirs up all the food, and therefore this is how they feed. And for some reason it's joined this school of blue tangs.
Hey Emil, can I get you to come back here, because we've just been following this school of blue tang, but down here I have found a juvenile blue tang which is actually completely yellow. So just down here, can you see that?
We do see a yellow fish, not quite got close enough to... There we go. Yes, this is a very cute... Is it a juvenile blue tang, Pat?
It is. So the blue tang that you just saw schooling just then, this is a juvenile, which is still a blue tang, but it is a very bright yellow. Now, quite often species will have a different juvenile form to their adult form. And this is for many reasons. It can be to display that they do a different feeding function, like cleaning, or it could just be to look different from the adults so they're not attacked by aggressive males or other members of the species.
Yeah.
Or just to hide themselves, kind of, so that they don't look like the adults at all, so that they're not as prone to being attacked at all.
Yeah, there is actually a yellow tang species as well, so not to be confused with that. This is the blue tang fish, which just happens to have a yellow juvenile phase. And these are very commonly cleaner fish. So throughout their life, they will clean other animals, and they're most commonly known for cleaning the shells of sea turtles. So, Pat, we do have some questions and comments that are relating to hurricane season. Barbara is mentioning that it is hurricane season here in the Caribbean, and that is correct. So the weather has been a little bit choppy recently and given us some challenges, but we obviously hope we will not suffer any hurricanes, because it will have an impact on the reef. Hurricanes can damage coral, especially the more fragile ones like the Acropora species, and it can have a big effect on the reef. So obviously we're hoping that doesn't happen. But Emil's got really close to this schooling group of fish. Now you can see the goldfish very clearly in amongst those bright blue tangs. There was a barjack.
Yes.
We've lost sight of the barjack. Oh, there he is off to the right. And he's an opportunistic feeder. So he's obviously just taking advantage of this group of tangs and trying to get in there on the feed. And there is a parrotfish. So it's quite a random aggregation of fish that are being chased off by those damselfish.
Yeah, so damselfish are quite aggressive when it comes to defending their territory. and for good reason too. So the damselfish actually farm their algae. So the damselfish we're talking about is just here a meal. So that's damselfish poking its head out right now, looking at the camera. So these guys will quite often be seen chasing off any herbivores coming towards their territory, just like we saw here with the blue tang, because they are farmers. So what they'll do is they'll go up to a coral and take out a polyp. So this polyp leaves a little hole in the coral that they will then put some algae in. So this algae will then reproduce and multiply and become a little perch. And that is their algae farm that they will use for food. So it's quite obvious to see why they would defend their territory so much when they put all this work into making their food there, only to see a big school of blue tangs come and eat it all up on them.
Yeah, they are so brave and so territorial for their size. Now, Pat, Marcy is asking, when did blue tangs turn blue? So I'm not sure of the exact age, but it's different phases throughout their life cycle. So once they reach a certain size and a certain age, they will start to show signs of blue coming through their skin, especially on the fins first. And then they will turn into an almost pastel blue. So they actually have 3 color phases: yellow when they're juvenile, then pastel blue when they're an adolescent, and then that blue will go into a deeper blue and they will become the adult form of the blue tang. So Pat, you might know this one. It is quite an interesting question from Jeffrey from Texas on Twitter. He is asking about the effects of boats and planes on the reef. So he has mentioned exhaust, but I'm guessing with regards to planes, that would also be noise pollution. Do you know anything on that?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a lot of sound on the reef. And the noise from boats and planes, well, I'm not really sure about planes, but I'm sure if they were flying low enough and there was enough sound, that you would hear them. But with boats, yes, so the noise can cancel out some calls, or maybe the animal might not hear a predator coming, or their prey might hear the sound and get scared. So it does affect these interactions here in the marine ecosystem. Now here in Grand Cayman, the effect of boats in terms of anchoring has been greatly reduced because they have mooring lines here. So what the mooring line is a buoy attached to a line that the boats can pull up and attach their rope to, so they don't have to anchor and hurt the reef anymore.
Yep, it's a fantastic method that is used around the world to avoid boats using their anchors. Anchors can do incredible damage. A large anchor from, say, a big cruise ship, for example, can actually wipe out an area of reef the size of a football pitch or bigger. So the mooring points that they have here are a fantastic initiative to avoid damaging the reef. Now, Aqua on Twitter is asking, are there any Antheas fish species here? And yes, there are. They're very, very small fish, of course. So if we see any, we will point them out, but they are here in the Caribbean.
What fish is that, sorry?
Antheas.
Antheas?
Yeah. We have a lot of them in the Indian Ocean. They're very colourful, but we'll try and point some out if we see any here.
Wow, there is just an abundance of Creole wrasse right now, sitting up above the water, just feeding on the plankton.
So we are reading your comments about the audio. So Jared here is just going to adjust Pat's mic and work on the feedback. So bear with us for now. We can hear you, Pat. Don't worry. Just a little muffled.
Yeah. That's alright, compared to yesterday or the day before, I'm sure it's not much of an issue.
Yeah, we are aware of these audio issues, and I can assure you we're working really hard on them.
Right. Oh, so, down here, quite a bit away, we have a
trumpet fish.
Yes.
Yay. This looks like quite a small one. What size would you say this is, Pat?
It's not too small. I would say it's about 50 centimeters long, so about 20 inches. And trumpet fish are really cool. Whoa, look at that. Look at the speed at which it can move. But they are really cool and really interesting fish. So they have these long, elongated trumpet-shaped bodies. And we can see it's really moving with big bursts of speed right now. And that is because their body is so streamlined. And they can also use this streamlined shape to pretty much hide behind their mouth when they're coming straight on to predators. So that's pretty interesting that they can use that cylindrical shape as a predatory mechanism. And now they will also do something really interesting, which is sitting upside down near a gorgonian. So the gorgonian is what it's right next to now, that big finger-like structure coming out with all the polyps.
We've lost the trumpet fish.
So what it will do is it will sit upside down alongside these polyps and just hang there, just hang and hang and hang. And then if a little fish comes to the gorgonian, then it won't see it because they can actually change colours. So they can change the colour of their skin and sit there straight. So a fish won't really be able to tell the difference between it and the gorgonian that's sitting next to it. They'll just sit there still, wait for the fish to come and then bang, just take it out and eat it.
That was very good, Pat. Thanks for that. Yeah, they are amazing fish. They're obviously much smaller than the big predatory fish, but they are amazing. And right ahead of us now we have two banded butterfly fish.
Yeah.
Wow, we don't see these too often, and they are probably most likely a mated pair, a little boyfriend and girlfriend. So you can see there, we know it's a banded butterfly straight away from the bands running down the body, and it's very obviously a butterfly fish from the shape of the body. They're small, rarely bigger than 25 centimeters, and they're very round and flat, almost disc-like.
And this body shape is a real advantage to them because they can weave in and out of corals really easily. And we saw that they have that real pointed snout. And that is because they are one of the only fish on this reef that will actually eat gorgonians, which are right here. We haven't mentioned them before, so you can see that it's got a really furry kind of texture to the top of it, and this is little individual animals called polyps. So the butterfly fish will use their long snouts to come up and suck all of the polyps out of the gorgonian. Sometimes even when they are retracted back into the body of the gorgonian.
Yeah, that is a fantastic shot, Emil. We do have some blue line grunts in the background. That's actually the yellow fish that has blue lines running around its body. And also in the background there is a red looking fish with a huge eye. Maybe Emil can go a little bit closer to these fish, and that is the squirrel fish. So there's a whole array of different fish life right in front of us. So there, the squirrel fish, the red one with that big eye, is actually a nocturnal animal, so it's active and feeds at night. So most likely right now it's just sort of hiding out in this sort of coral bombing in the dark crevice. I can actually see another one because they're resting because it is daytime now. So are you quite shallow now, Pat?
Yeah, I am very shallow right now. So we've just come to the edge of the reef crest, and I am at 6 meters down, so about 20-25 feet. So not very down low at all, but there is just an array of different species of fish around right now. So it's kind of good being here. And in the shallows, we obviously get more light penetrating, so we can see things in better detail.
So So Helen Ferguson is watching from Scotland. So hi, Helen. Shout out to you.
Lauren loves to be the fellow Scot. So welcome.
2 Aussies against 1 Scot. Proud Cat Mama is asking, are butterfly fish aggressive? That's an interesting question for you, Pat.
Butterfly fish, they don't tend to be very aggressive. I haven't heard of them ever really lashing out at anyone or anything. They are a small fish, and they tend to eat coral gorgonians and other corals. So I don't think they really have a territory to defend, and they tend to just go around in their mating pants, a bit oblivious to what's happening.
Yeah, they are monogamous even. That's a hard word to say at this time in the morning. And they do tend to travel around in their mated pairs. So they will feed together, mate together, rest together, and they're really not aggressive. They just normally specialize on eating coral, and different butterfly fish can actually specialize in different parts of the coral. So you have some species that will just solely eat the mucus produced by coral. You will have other species that eat the actual polyps themselves, and then you will have some species that just eat the skeleton. So they're very specialized in their feeding. And Yvonne on Twitter is asking, she really loves butterfly fish, me too, and how long does it take a butterfly and an angelfish to grow into the adult form? So I know for angelfish that are slightly bigger, if you see any angelfish, Pat, point them out. They don't take that long to grow. They do have shorter life cycles, so they will, it kind of depends on size. They're normally said to become sexually mature when the angelfish reaches 25 centimeters, and they can grow right up to 61 centimeters. Maybe Pat can do the inch conversion there.
What was the centimeters, sorry?
25 centimeters.
So that is 10 inches.
Pat's really good at that. And 61 centimeters?
61 centimeters, so that is... Will you put me on the spot here? So that's about 15 inches.
We are getting used to all the conversions. It's not so easy for us, but we are trying. So yes, once they reach a certain size, that means they're an adult. So for angelfish, it is around that 25 centimeter mark, 10 inches, and they will become sexually mature. So you can classify them as an adult. So we would love to see an angelfish right now to show you what we're talking about. So I'm sure Pat and Emil can keep their eyes peeled for them.
What was that, sorry?
An angelfish. Let's see if we can try and find an angelfish.
Yes, when we were just talking about that trumpet fish before, I did see a French angelfish. But I will definitely keep my eyes out for one. They do frequent these parts of the reef.
Rocky on Twitter is actually asking, do we have a sign above the water that says someone is diving here? So that's a really interesting question about our operations. We are diving in front of John Foster's Dive Centre with their help and support. Couldn't do it without them. And we are doing a shore dive. So we're based at the end of the pier, and we do have lots of signs. Everybody knows we are diving, and luckily it's nice and early in the morning. There's not any other divers around, but we do have a very long cable. So this cable has lots of floaties on it, which is clearly visible to any boats or people around. So yes, we're very well visible and clearly marked. Don't worry about that. Still no sight of the angelfish?
No.
Normally we see them, and then when we want to see them, we can't find them.
I feel like that's the way of everything down here. Whatever we're not expecting to see, we see. And whenever we want to find something, it's never there. But I am still keeping my eyes out for like moray eel as well.
So Pat, can you just give us an air check? I'm going to be a good dive buddy today.
Yes. I am on 110 bar. So I'm about halfway through my tank, and usually when I hit about 50 or 60 bucks, that's when it's time to end the dive. So we've still got quite a bit left to go.
So you see that Pat just sort of signaled a strange signal there. He was using diver sign language, if you like, to communicate that he is on 110 bar. So here in the Caribbean, they do actually use PSI, but I think bar is much more commonly used throughout the world. And that's how he signals to his fellow diver how much air he has. So Pat, maybe you can show us the signal for asking how we actually ask each other how much air we have.
Yeah, sure. So if I wanted to know how much air, for example, a mule had, I would go like this. So when I do that, then they'll reply with how much air that they have. So for example, if Lauren was to ask me how much air I have, she'd go like that, and then I would reply just like I did before, like that for 100, 110.
Yeah, so obviously, well, normally divers cannot talk underwater. Clearly, Pat is talking to us right now, but that is not the norm. So sign language is key for us in communicating. So that was what Pat was doing there. It's really interesting. And as he updates his air throughout the dive, he will use different hand signals. So we'll get him to show us as he goes through the dive.
Now we're just coming through a really deep channel here with some really overhanging sharp ledges. So this is a perfect place to look for creatures that generally come out during the night and like to have a fly-away place during the day. And we have a huge French angelfish.
Oh, yay!
So there is your angelfish, guys. And this one is massive. It is probably about the size of a dinner plate.
Yeah, it does look really big, and you can see it's definitely bigger than those butterfly fish we were talking about earlier. It is much more colourful, but it still almost has that same body shape, that flat, disc-like, roundish body shape. And we're getting a perfect view of that, Pat, by Emil.
Yeah, Emil's been doing some great camera work today. So this angelfish is a pretty generalist feeder. It tends to eat sponges, which is a diet that is not really taken upon by many other animals. But it will also eat types of coral and... Sorry, I'm just going to help Emil with the cable here. It also eats coral and small crustaceans and other fish, so it really will feed on just about anything. And this really helps with reef fish because there is so much competition for different resources here. So when you can be a bit more general with what you're eating, then you're always going to have something to eat. And especially when it comes to sponges, because sponges are made up of silicon and glass, and they have so many chemical deterrents that not many other species will choose them for their food. So this really comes in handy for the angelfish, because the sponges here are abundant on this reef, so they're always going to have a source of food there for them.
Yeah, so they actually estimate that 90% of a French angelfish's diet comes from sponges. So it is a food resource that not many animals eat. You would only find it would be the hawksbill turtle and some other fish that would feed on the sponges. So it's a perfect way for the angelfish to get their nutrition through the sponge. And we have another trumpet fish.
Yeah, so this trumpet fish has come back to visit us. So hopefully we can get a look at it here.
So just while we're looking out for this trumpet fish, Andrea has asked if you're okay, Pat, because your face looks red. So thank you so much for your concern, Andrea. But we actually have a red filter, on the camera. And this is due to the color that we lose when we dive. So we have a red filter on the camera, and that's why Pat's face probably looks a little bit red. But I can assure you that he is more than okay.
and I'm not embarrassed either.
He's not blushing yet. So red filters are used quite commonly in diving, so it's not unusual. So it can make things look red if they come too close. But this trumpet fish, do you think it's the same one, Pat, or a different one?
Well, it looks about the same size. I mean, obviously I can't say for sure whether it is the same one, but it's the same size. So, I mean, it could be, it was, and it's in a very similar spot. So we can see how it just projects itself forward so quickly, which is so efficient for when they're feeding on smaller organisms. Just really move themselves in a straight direction very quickly. So they're a very effective hunter. As I said earlier, they do change colours as well, which is also a huge game changer for them.
Oh, it's off. And they do look quite similar to pipefish and seahorses, and that's because they're very closely related to them, in case you're noticing the similarity there. And just underneath the trumpet, we do have an angry damselfish protecting its territory. Oh, barjack, eating.
So just before Emil turned the camera onto this barjack, it was feeding like crazy. It was really just going into that reef there, just really attacking it. So it's on a mission. It is definitely on a mission.
So this is in the jack family, commonly also called the trevally family. You can just tell straight away by looking at that body shape with the forked tail, and it's got a bar running down the top of its body, which is where probably the name barjack comes from. And as we mentioned earlier, this is an opportunistic feeder. They will just take advantage of many other animals, including stingrays and goldfish, and just hang around them when they're feeding and steal some of that food.
You can see that this one is black. Now, this isn't always the case here with barjacks. So they are mostly silver, but they do turn black when they feed closer to the bottom. So I'm not actually sure why this is. I'm assuming it's because of the composition of their diet. But generally the ones that feed on the bottom, or the ones that, really tend to, I suppose, bludge off other animals, they turn black.
I think this is possibly the best barjack sighting we've had on diveLIVE. They don't normally entertain us for that long in front of the camera. So nice work, Emil.
Look at it.
And Yvonne is also saying, good job, Emil, on your camera work. And we do have a comment from Betty saying, never mind asking about fish swimming backwards. How does the cameraman swim backwards? Well, they're incredibly talented people, Emil and Rian, and they are just like fish underwater, except they have a camera in their hand.
Exactly.
So just to jump in, because we're getting a real close-up of this trumpet fish, and you can actually see at the tip of its chin, if you like, there's a really small barbel. We were able to see that quite clearly there. And now it's gone into hiding.
And did you see how its colours lighten to approach this lighter coloured gorgonian? And that is its camouflage going into play right there.
So Aqua's actually asking a really important question. Which species in this area is considered a keystone species? That's a really interesting question, and I would probably say butterflyfish in general are known as sort of bioindicator species. So they are key because they do indicate the health of a reef. So they will show us exactly by looking at the population numbers how healthy that reef is. Do you know of any other keystone species, Pat?
Keystone species?
Yeah.
Well, a keystone species is, just for anyone that doesn't know, it's a species that, if it's taken out of the ecosystem, then the ecosystem will really, really start to collapse and change. So, as Lauren said, butterflyfish are one of these species because they feed so much on the corals. So, if there's a lot of corals, then obviously there's going to be a lot of butterflyfish. Now, On this reef also, herbivorous fish are good indicator species as well, but the top ones are the sharks. So sharks really control an ecosystem by culling the weak and the unneeded. So if there's a lot of sharks in the ecosystem, then you know that there is a lot of fish as well, and that generally that ecosystem is in tip-top shape.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of examples. Even the urchin, the black long-spined urchin, which is really common around here, known as diadema, they are a keystone species over in Jamaica, and actually they had a population die off due to disease, which reduced the population to around 7%. And this meant that all the reefs became smothered in algae. So what this showed us was that those urchins were actually a keystone species, and that they were completely clearing the reefs of algae because they are massive herbivores. And once we lost them, we realized their importance and that the ecosystem really depended on them. And all the reefs became smothered in this algae, and they were not able to get rid of it. So there's a lot of keystone species on the reef, and some that maybe their importance we don't even realize. The parrotfish is another really important one. It has lots of functions, lots of importance. Oh, that was a parrotfish right on the screen there. Maybe Emil can get another one. And they also indicate health of a reef. They do eat the algae inside of coral, so they're constantly seen crunching and grazing on the coral. They're not actually eating the coral themselves. They swallow the coral indirectly, and they end up pooping a lot of sand, which is really important for the beach ecosystem. So they're recycling that sand and putting it back into the ecosystem, which is really important. So they would be another keystone species. But that was a really good question, Aqua. Thank you.
Yes, we always love to get a good sciencey question.
It tests us as well. But we do have one from Richard who's asking, why are butterflyfish called butterflyfish? I think it's quite obvious. They do flutter by like a butterfly. They do resemblance butterflies in their movement, and that is where the name comes from. But now we have a pair of French angelfish.
Yes, so these are most likely a mating pair, so they are very closely related to the butterflyfish. They also tend to hang around, they do tend to hang around in pairs as they are mating. So they're a little bit of a boyfriend-girlfriend type situation here.
Although I must tell you, Pat, even though they are your favorite fish, the males are known to sneak away and participate in group sex behind that female's back. I hate to disappoint you.
Well, yeah, that's not as romantic as one.
Well, we'll just stick to the romantic idea. But yeah, they're really similar to butterflies in that they are monogamous, almost. Yeah, and they do.
Ignorance is bliss here for the female.
And they do travel around in these pairs. So they are slightly different from butterflyfish, from those who are unsure. One, you look at the size, butterflyfish will be much smaller, never really going above that 25 centimeters, 10-inch mark. Whereas these angelfish, the French, can go right up to 61 centimeters. They are also more colorful. They have a bigger range of colors. Butterflies tend to be black, white, orange with a little bit of yellow. And angelfish actually have a small spine at their gill cover. So if we are able to sight these angelfish again, we will try and show you that little spine. Butterflies don't have the spine, so that's another way of identifying them. And you look at their mouths. So angelfish will have a much bigger and wider mouth because, as Pat mentioned earlier, they're omnivores. They eat a whole range of food. So their mouths are bigger. Whereas butterflyfish mouths are rarely bigger than a few millimeters because they are corallivores. They're very specific in what they feed on, and they normally pluck coral from the reef. So there's a lot of differences between the two, even although they are similar. Have the angelfish disappeared?
Yes, they have gone off to their beautiful relationship together. And just one last little thing on their relationship. So they have been observed if they are split up for a while, when they find each other again, they will actually dance around with each other once they're reunited, which is kind of special and pretty beautiful.
So just you can see a boat above Pat's head there. So there are boats moored in the area. They're not moving. No one is on them. And that also shows you how shallow Pat is right now. We're really not that deep to see this huge array of life. And Barbara is asking about the debris floating around, and we did mention earlier it's plankton. What you can see is plankton. It looks white, it looks like snow, but it is floating bits of plankton, not debris. Yes. The waters are very clean here.
Oh, this is quite a sizey lionfish we have here.
It's another fishy dive today. Yeah, we have a lionfish right in front of us.
So this one is massive for a lionfish. Usually they're about 20-25 centimeters long, but this one's about 40, so about 15 inches.
Yeah, it looks like a fully grown adult there, and you can see it's positioned with its back to us. It's shown us its spines, if you like. Those dorsal and ventral spines that look very feathery, and this is just a technique of the lionfish. They are nocturnal, so they're more active during the night. So during the day they tend to face into rocks or caves so that their spines are facing outward, just to defend themselves if any predators come along, because those spines are filled with venom, and it's a neurotoxin that's inside, which will affect the neuromuscular transmission of anyone who touches it.
And even when they are killed, that toxin will still sit there in their spines, so they're lethal even after life.
Yeah, you can still be inflicted with the venom even after the animal dies. So we're getting a great close-up of actually how incredibly beautiful this animal is. Although it is an invasive species here, it is a real beautiful fish, a dangerous beauty, if you like.
Yeah, most definitely. So, and we can see towards the front on its mouth, it's got all of these series. So these are little sensory organs that help it to sense other things. Much like the barbells that we pointed out on that trumpet fish earlier.
And Proud Cat Mama is asking why they are a problem. So unfortunately, they're not supposed to be here in the Caribbean. They have came over from the Indo-Pacific. From different theories to how they got here, but they are an incredible predator and they shouldn't be here, which means they don't have any natural predators in the ecosystems here. So they have multiplied and multiplied until their population numbers are now completely unsustainable, and they are doing damage to the reefs here because they're eating so much of the juvenile reef fish. So therefore they have become a problem. And in some reefs off the coast of Florida, you can actually find 1,000 lionfish per acre. So that's a huge volume of unsustainable fish.
Yes, and if you just take into account just how many juveniles these fish eat, then you can really see how much of a devastating impact they can have on an ecosystem by taking out these young who don't even get to survive to a reproductive age, so they're not able to put back into the ecosystem. So they're really cutting off other species numbers and further declining them by not allowing them to reproduce.
Yeah, and there is a lot of studies done on these fish because of the problems that they cause. And they do estimate if an adult lionfish was on a reef, they are able to wipe out 80% of the juvenile reef fish just within 5 weeks. So that's what an incredible predator they are, and that's why they are a problem.
And on that note, I will end the dive as I have now hit 50 bar. So we are pretty shallow, so I'll be able to go up after a short safety stop.
You want to show us the sign for safety stop, Pat?
So a 3-minute safety stop, like that. I think I got that right.
I think you did, or you can do it the other way, but yeah.
That's right, 3-minute safety stop. So, thank you everyone for joining me again. It's been a pleasant dive. We will have another one at 11 a.m. Grand Cayman time, and Lauren will be down with you. Thank you to Emil, thank you Lauren, and thank you diveLIVE family for joining me once again.
Thank you everyone. Please join me again when I will be underwater at 11 a.m. Cayman time. See you for now.